Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the A Little Craft Room podcast. I'm Nicola, I'm owner of A Little Craft Room, lots and lots of places. You can find some of my social medias down below. If you're new here, welcome to my podcast. This is where I talk about my knitting, my crochet, what I've been doing, just kind of cute things like that. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I've called this episode 17. I think I said that in my last episode, but I decided that my last episode was more of like a 16.5 because it was like just a little diddy one while I was traveling. So I've decided this is actually episode 17. We are on the 6th of September, but for some reason the weather has decided that we're going to have a heat wave. So I've left the window open because it is so warm in here. I can't face the idea of closing the window. So I'm hoping that we don't get too much sound interference. But yeah, the idea of closing the window is just revolting. So we're leaving it open and let's just hope that we don't get too much noise. But yes, we are now in September and it should be sweater weather. And I don't know what's happening. I'd geared myself up for sweater weather, and in my head I was like, yeah, it's going to be autumn, I can start wearing all the sweaters, it's going to be great. And then this happened. And normally I love the sun and I love the heat, but I was prepared for autumn. So now my brain's like, oh, what are we going to do? I don't know. So in terms of like what I'm wearing, I did plan on wearing a sweater. Absolutely not. No, it is far too hot for that. So I'll get into that in a second. Just a little life update first. So it is very, very odd knowing that it is September, that all of my students are now back in school and I am not. That is weird. So people who have watched the podcast before, I was a secondary science teacher. I had to leave due to health problems. And this is the first September where the term has started and I'm not there, and it's very strange. But I am setting myself up as a private tutor instead. So I didn't want to leave teaching behind altogether. I still love science and I still love teaching science, but I'm not well enough to do it in a classroom. So I'm setting myself up as a private tutor and hopefully I can still keep up with it that way. So yeah, it's a bit of a change of tack for me, but I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, and yeah, I think it's gonna work. But yes, my summer of madness has now come to an end, and it was a bit of a summer of madness with all my trips, and I had the Conclave of Chaos at the end, which I'm going to tell you all about at the end of this podcast, and it is a tale. Let me tell you, it is a story. So we're gonna get to that at the end. But the one thing I am going to say on the Conclave of Chaos is that because of reasons, which I will talk about later, I do have some leftover stock that I didn't get around to selling. So I will show you those bits now. My mum and I made some project bags, some knitting and crochet project bags that I was selling on the stall, and I still have some left over, so I've popped them on my Etsy store, and if anybody wants to buy any, I will love you forever. So we've got 5 different kind of designs. We've got the pink flowery ones, we have kind of a marbly grey bluey colour, we have blue flowery ones, and we have like kind of nautical anchor ones, and finally my favourite, I just adore these ones, little mushrooms. I almost didn't want to take these with me because I was just like, I want to keep them all. Like, these are definitely my favourites. So they're on my Etsy shop if anybody's interested. We have 2 sizes, large and small, with like a side-by-side comparison there between the large and the small. And yeah, I just think they're adorable little project bags. If I still have any mushroom ones left over, I will absolutely just be sneaking one away and keeping one. Or maybe I'll just make one specifically for myself. But the idea is they're a little drawstring, but it's a loop so that you can craft on the go. You can loop it over your arm and have your yarn in there while you are knitting or crocheting. So I did think I would just show you those. I think they're so cute. Like I said, my mum and I spent ages making them, and we have some leftover, so if anybody is interested in buying any, they are available on my Etsy shop, which you can find under A Little Craft Room. So with that out of the way, I will talk about what I'm wearing. Now, I did say I couldn't face the idea of wearing a sweater. I am still wearing something I've made, but you're not going to see it on camera because it's just far too small. So you can just about see it there. I am wearing a necklace that I made, I think it was in March this year. This was when I wasn't podcasting because of my health, so I don't think you guys have actually seen this, but it is a teeny tiny little flower necklace. It is the Forget Me Not Cherry Blossom Jewellery by, the pattern is by Micro Crochet Royalty, Steffi Glaves. And I'd intended to do some micro crochet for quite a while. I adored this jewellery set. I'd seen it on Instagram and I just thought it was the cutest thing. She has earrings and like obviously the matching necklace, and I knew that I had to make it. So while I was laid up and I couldn't really go anywhere, I thought perfect time to concentrate and really start on this micro crochet. I was not prepared for the strain on my eyes. Like, it was like, obviously it's micro, but I thought, you know, I've done some lacework crochet before, I've done some pretty tiny doilies. I thought, yeah, no, it'll be all right. And I mean, obviously I've managed it, but it was work. Like, honestly, I tip my hat to micro crocheters. It is not easy at all. And you can buy the pattern for these, or you can go onto her Etsy, I believe, and just buy the finished items. You can buy the necklace and the earrings as finished items. And I was really tempted to do that because obviously I knew that it would be a very good quality if I did that. But then part of me was like, no, I want to make it myself. So obviously I've done the necklace. I had every intention of doing the earrings, but having done the necklace now, I'm very tempted to just buy it because, like I said, it was so difficult. And you know, it's not to say that it was too difficult, like it wasn't unmanageable, but I definitely feel like I need one of those things, you know, from Toy Story where he's fixing Woody and he has those glasses and he just like knocks all the lenses on to like magnify. I feel like I need one of those to do micro crochet because it was so to I used my smallest hook. This is the smallest hook I own, and I used that to make this necklace. This is a 0.6 millimeter hook. You can barely even, that's not going to focus on the hook at all. It was so tiny. Like, honestly, this thing is sharp. So I've never actually used it before, but it finally got its outing with my necklace. And I am glad that I made it. Like I said, I wanted this for a while. I thought it was very pretty, so I'm glad that I made it. But it was very fiddly to do. I did use the recommended, I can't really say yarn, can I? Because it's not yarn, it was thread. It was embroidery thread. The Gutermann thread, it is 100% cotton. So I couldn't get the exact colours that were recommended in the pattern, but I managed to get pretty close. So I used colour 2538, 2635 and 2833. So those were the three colours that I used. Like I said, they weren't exactly the recommended ones, but they were close enough. I knew they'd work, and I think they did. I think they did work. So yeah, I really do want the earrings. She does like studs and kind of drop earrings, and I'm not sure which I would prefer. Maybe I'll get both. I don't know. Maybe I'll make one set and buy another. Maybe the thought of making this again, like, part of me wants to, but obviously I would have to make two for earrings, and one was tricky enough, and I can just see myself making one, putting it aside, and then forgetting about it forever, because it would take me a lot of motivation to get up and do the second one. So I don't know, we will see. But at some point I will have the earrings, whether I make them, whether I make them or buy them. At some point I will end up with the earrings, I think. So yeah, it's I couldn't face a sweater, so I decided on my tiniest tiniest make so far, which is the Forget Me Not Cherry Blossom Jewellery by Steffi Glaves. I actually don't have any finished objects to show this week, and the reason for that is because I could have finished some stuff, but I went on my trip. I wanted one dedicated project to do on my trip with all my train travel, so I kind of put down everything that I'd already started working on so that I could start and take one project, and I will update you as to how I'm doing. So I started the Accentuating Crewneck sweater by Zanete knits, and I started it on Friday the 18th of August. As we set off on the train to London, I got my bag out and cast this on, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I managed to do. Turns out if you want to do a lot of sweater knitting very quickly, you just need to spend the equivalent of 24 hours on a train over the course of a week. That'll get you a very quickly knitted sweater. So bearing in mind that this is less than 3 weeks ago, and I am very, very close to finishing this sweater. I'm just going to pop the necklace away. So I am very, very close to finishing this sweater. Just kind of 3/4 of a sleeve to go, and I'm done. And part of me really wants to get it done before Friday, because if I get it done before Friday, it will be my quickest sweater that I've ever made. The quickest knitted sweater that I've ever made. I'm much faster at crochet. I've made a crochet sweater in like 4 days before, but I haven't done a knitted one in less than 3 weeks. So over the next couple of days, that's kind of like my little goal to myself, is get it done before Friday. I'm not expecting to get it blocked, although in this heat it'll block in like an hour. But yeah, I'm really happy with it so far. When I swatched with this yarn, it grew a little bit, so I am expecting a little bit of growth, and it had quite a really nice drape actually once it had dried, so I am really looking forward to how this fabric turns out. Yeah, I'm just really happy with it. I'm just a bit sad that I couldn't wear it more quickly. So I've made a lot of progress. When I came on last time, in my little mini podcast that I did in my in my Airbnb, I was only up to, I think, here on the body. I'd not long joined the arm, joined under the arms. I really hadn't, and it was like I could put it on, but it was coming up to about here on me. So yeah, I wasn't on last week, was I? No, it must have been the week before last. Yeah, the week before last. So in the last 2 weeks, I've finished the body, done one whole arm, and started on the second arm. So I'm really, really happy. It will. See, I don't want to say that. I was about to say it'll definitely be finished before the next podcast, because I intend to finish it on Friday, but I feel like that's tempting fate right there. Yeah, I don't want to say like I said, I would very much like to have it finished by Friday, because then it's my quickest sweater I've ever knit. So if all goes to plan, then I will be able to show you the finished version in the next podcast. But yeah, that sleeve took about a day to do in total, so if I'm going on the same kind of trajectory, then I imagine this sleeve shouldn't be too much of a problem. But yeah, if I can get it done before Friday, hell, if I can get it done tomorrow, that would be amazing. But yeah, we will see. But I have made a lot of progress, and I'm really happy with it, and I cannot wait until this weather cools down and I can wear it, because I was expecting sweater weather and I don't have sweater weather. But yes, the Accentuating Crewneck by Zanete knits, very, very close to completion, and that is why I don't have any more finished objects to show you this week. I do have a teeny update on my other sweater that I was in the middle of. So I was partway through the Harlow sweater V-neck by Caidree, and I say partway, I'm nearly. No, I'm not nearly finished. I'm coming towards the end. I'm over halfway. I'm probably about 75% of the way. I've done the arms, and I'm just on the body of this one. But because I've decided to improvise and add my own colour work, it is taking a little longer than it might otherwise do because I can't just go and go and go. This one also has a split hem where I think it's longer at the back as well, but I know that it does have a split hem, which weirdly, first time I've done a split hem on a jumper. I don't know why. It's not like it's a rare thing, but I've just never done a split hem, so I'm really looking forward to this one. But yes, I am on the colour work on the bottom, and you can see it is starting to appear and needs blocking really, but I don't think I've got too much of the colour work left. I've probably got about 20 rounds of the colour work left, and then once I'm entirely into the contrast colour, I can just go and go and go, and then it'll come much quicker once I've done that. The only thing that's going to take this one slightly longer, and I did admit this in my last full podcast, is that when I did the sleeves, I made a bit of a boo-boo, and on one I went down a needle size, and on the other I didn't. And it's not like, if somebody didn't know, I don't think they'd notice, but it is going to feel different. So I don't think, unless blocking really evens out those two, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep it like this. I'm going to have to change one. Either rip that out and go up a needle size, or rip that out and go down a needle size. But one of these is going to have to change. It's also going to depend on how much yarn I have left, because if I don't have very much yarn left, then I might just have to go down, because this one might take up more yarn than I have if I'm going up a needle size. So that decision might be made for me. But we will see. I'm hoping that I will have enough. And I do this every time. Every time I make a sweater, I always sit there and go, you know what? I really think I've cut it fine on the yarn for this one. And I do it every single time. And every single time I've been fine. I don't know why I'm so kind of paranoid about it, but it's always what I do. It's always what I do. So if I have enough yarn, I think I would prefer to go up the needle size on this one, given the choice, because I really like the whole vibe of this was going to be oversized. I think I did go for my recommended size, but it does have a lot of positive ease. My gauge was a little longer. I think I met stitch gauge, but my row gauge was a little longer, so I knew that meant it would fall a little longer, which was perfectly fine by me. I had no issue with that. But because of that, it's going to affect my yarn, and the fact that I decided to do colour work, and yeah, there's a lot of factors at play here that could impact my yarn usage. So I'm hoping that I can rip that out and go up the needle size, but we will have to see. So I just can't wait to put this on. This just looks like the coziest thing. I'm just imagining kind of curling up on the sofa with a hot chocolate and a book while it's pouring with rain outside and just a little chilly, and just having this on like that. That is the vibe. That's what I want. And I can't do it when it's 27 degrees, but that's the vibe. That's the kind of the goal, the carrot on the stick in front of me that's keeping me going with this, because I think putting it down to start the Accentuating Crewneck kind of snapped me out of the motivation mode that I was in. So I did a little bit of work on it yesterday. I kind of sat down and made myself do it, and I think I've started to remotivate myself on this one. And like I said, it would be a little easier if it wasn't for the temperature right now. But I'm struggling with the idea of the really big, thick, chunky, woolly knits while I can barely stand to have them on my lap. But I just know that I'm going to love this so much. And in my head, this is my Stitch Fest jumper. I want to be wearing this at Stitch Fest. So I've kind of set that deadline for myself. And that is the start of November, I believe. Off the top of my head, I believe it's first weekend in November. So I've got plenty of time. But I'm hoping, I've got 3 whips on the go right now. So I've got these 2 sweaters and a secret whip that you're not finding out about just yet. And I'm intending to have intending might be a bit of a strong word. I would like to have them all done by the next podcast. The Accentuating Crewneck is an almost definite. My secret one, I would like to say is a definite. I'm going to try and power through that one. It's a new design that I'm on, but I'm not releasing any information about it just yet. The Harlow V-neck is probably the most likely one not to be completed by the next podcast, but I guess we will see how much time I get to knit on it. If all three of them can be finished, that would be great, because despite what I just said about not wanting the woolly knits while it's really warm, I am feeling I've got itchy fingers. I've got like a few things I would really like to cast on, but I need to get these three finished before I let myself do any more, because I just know I'll put them down and I won't pick them back up because I'll get cast on fever or something. So I'm forcing myself to finish these before I go on to the other bits, because now that the conclave is over and I've got a little bit more free time, I've not just got the madness of trying to prepare for the conclave. I am fully intending to get back to my teddy task. We're going back quite a few episodes here, so for anybody that doesn't know, a friend of mine, his mum sadly passed away at the beginning of last year, and she left a lot of projects unfinished, so I said that I would finish all of the amigurumi crochet projects that she had started. So I'm fully intending to get back to that now that I've got a little bit more time. And I also intend to get back to the portal blanket, which is a long time coming. I need to make this year's square because I am on year 3/4 of the portal blanket and I've made 3 squares, so I need to make this year's square. I can't let my average of 1 square a year, I can't let that drop. Like, that is, the bar is on the ground here for that. I can't let it drop any further. So I need to start this year's portal square. In fact, I am going to decide right now which square I'm going to do, because I've done the cake, I've done the Aperture Science logo, I've done the companion cube, and those are the 3 that I've done. So maybe my next one will be Shocky Drowny Guy. I think that's Shocky Drowny. I'm assuming that's somebody in electrified water. I don't know. It looks like it to me. I should know, given that I've now completed Portal 1. I would assume it is. I'm going to assume it is. So yeah, maybe I'll do this guy, and then I've got a bottom row, because maybe if I complete a row and I actually manage to stitch them together, it will spur me on to carry on. And to be fair, I've been playing through Portal. I've completed Portal 1. I'm maybe just over halfway through Portal 2, and I think it is working. So I started playing it on Twitch to motivate myself to finish this blanket, and I think it is working. It's given me a little bit more of an appreciation for the games. And I've always said that I knew this blanket was going to be awesome, but now I want to see it as well. Like, I'm really looking forward to seeing this done. So maybe I'll do Shocky Drowny Guy for my next one. Plus, it's only 2 colours, so considering I've not done any portal squares in a while, keep it minimal on the number of colours and maybe ease myself back into it. And then I want to up that average from 1 square a year. I want to up that because 1 square a year is a little bit abysmal, and I wanna get that a little higher. I would rather not have to wait another 8 years for this blanket to be complete. So yes, I think I do need to tweak my colour work pattern because I just need to refine the edges. But yes, I intend to have that square finished by the end of the year, she says. But then I'll have 4 completed in 4 years. So yes, I'm going to be back to the portal blanket. I'm going to be back to the teddy task. And yeah, just a few little bits. I've also just caked up some of this beautiful yarn from Arcane Fiberworks. This is the Cherry Tea colourway that they sent me because I am an affiliate with them, and I am in love with this yarn. I love it so much. I just think it's so pretty. It's got like kind of dark pinks, whites, bits of brown in it, and I adore this. I adore it so much. And I caked it up and I had to stop myself because I was like, no, you're not allowed to cast on until you finished the 3 that you're currently working on. But my intention for this one, I would like to make this, the Rock Pool Sweater by Lily Kate Makes. I really like the fact that she does use a variegated yarn for this, and I love the idea of using the cherry tea yarn for the Rock Pool Sweater. So that is in my head. That is what I am kind of keeping in mind for this yarn. And like I said, I caked up one skein and then went, nope, you're not allowed to do anymore, because otherwise I will just start, and I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to start until I've finished what I already have. So yes, that there is a very high chance that I will have cast that on by the time the next podcast comes, provided I have finished at least my secret new design and the Accentuating Crewneck. I would like to say I'll have finished the Harlow V-neck as well. That maybe is less likely, but I'm not casting on the Rock Pool Sweater until I've at least finished those 2. So that is my promise to myself, is that when I finish those, I get to cast more things on. So before I get into acquisitions, I'm just going to talk about some upcoming plans, because despite what the weather would have us believe, we are now in September, which is the start of yarn show season, and I'm so excited. I love yarn show season, and I'm very excited to go to all of them. I don't know which ones I am and I'm not going to, but I know that we've got the Kerno Yarn and Fibre Festival coming up. There's 3 Bugs Full in Liscard. There's the Kelly House Woolly Weekend in Tavistock. There's Stitch Fest, which is like the highlight of my year. Unfortunately, I don't think Yarndale is on the cards for me this year. One day I will go. I am desperate to go to Yarndale. One day I will go, but I don't think it's this year. And I know loads of people that go, and I always see the photos every year, but it is a bit of a trek for me. You know, what with it being in Yorkshire, I live in the southwest. I would love to go to Yarndale, but maybe next year might be the year for me. And I'm pretty sure I said that last year, but one day I will make it to Yarndale, but likely not this year. But Stitch Fest, like I said, Stitch Fest is one of the highlights of my year, and I'm very much looking forward to going to as many as I can, because I just love going. I love talking to yarny people and seeing, you know, everybody always wears something they've made, and it's always just such a nice environment going to all these yarn festivals, all the markets and everything. So I'm very much looking forward to going and nosing at all those. I also have some workshops coming up in the next couple of months, which I'm very excited about. I work a lot with Truro Fabrics, so I've got a few workshops coming up with them, and I am also in talks with another yarn store in the southwest to start up some workshops with them as well. So I'm not going to say anything until it's set in stone, but yes, there might be some more workshops coming from me in the next couple of months as well, which I'm very excited about. So let's go to acquisitions. There's a couple from last week that I'm going to repeat, purely because the lighting is better. I've got my usual setup. I'm kind of back in my comfort zone, so I feel like I can show it a little better. Nearly all of these are from my trip. I've got another one that I forgot to tell you about last time. So obviously trip around the UK, train trip, and a yarn shop or two as we went around, of course. So I think I did show these last time, but I have some adorable needle stoppers, like little sushi rolls. I have used these extensively already. They're so cute. So these were from Beautiful Knitters in London, as was some yarn that I got as well. So like I said, you can probably see the colour slightly better here than you could on the last one. Yes, it's coming through a little better, a little more accurate. So I did get 2 skeins of the Wool Barnes Heritage Blueface Leicester in the colour Forest. Now I am very, very excited to use this. I do have some of the Wool Barnes yarn already, haven't used it yet. It's earmarked for socks, but this is earmarked for, and I've forgotten to prepare a little picture for it, but I am planning on making the Uptown Tee by Tori Knits. I can't remember her full name, but she's Tori. I think she's Tori Knits on Instagram. And the Uptown Tee, it's such a cute t-shirt. It's got, I think it's like raglan design, and it's got like really cute kind of arm details, but it is a short sleeved one, and I just think this colour would look lovely in that. So treated myself to those. Not going to spend too much longer on that because I did show it last time. You know what I mean. So from Beautiful Knitters, I got those 2, which I have already shown. But what I didn't show you was my second acquisition. So I also went to Loop in London because I can't help myself. And I walked in and I told myself I wasn't going to buy anything. I was like, nope, I'm just here for the happiness, just here for the vibes. And then I found something. So this is the mistake you make, is when you go and you start like feeling the yarn and then you find something that's so soft, and that's what happened. So I accidentally bought 2 skeins of yarn. It happens. So I bought, this is Plump DK by Mrs. Moon. Now, it's not one that I'd heard of before, but I really, really wish I could tell you how soft this feels. It is ridiculous. Like, I think it was this one, and I just touched it and just went, oh, it's so soft. It's like I'm barely touching anything, and it's beautiful. So it is 80% superfine sustainable merino and 20% baby alpaca. And I think the baby alpaca is what's really helping with this softness. So I got 2 colours. This is coming through a little more red on camera, but it's actually like a deep purple. I don't know where the blue tones are going. But yeah, I got kind of like a toffee. That's the name of that one, toffee. Although personally I'd say that's a little pale for toffee. But this is the colour toffee. And this is Damson Jam, which, yeah, I can totally see that. So I got these 2, and my thoughts are I am potentially, hopefully, going to be going to some Nordic countries over the winter. So I thought, well, obviously I'm going to need like really warm knitted stuff for winter in Nordic countries. So I'll just make myself a colourwork cowl, and yeah, I'll just do that. So that is my plan for these 2 beautiful skeins of yarn, and I think it's gonna be so lovely, especially like next to skin. This is so soft. It is so beautifully soft, and like I said, the second I got hold of these, I couldn't put them down. I was like, great, well, that's me buying more yarn, despite what I told myself. But no, I hadn't actually heard of this yarn brand before, and I think I'm definitely going to have to look them up on Instagram. Plump DK by Mrs. Moon. Sumptuous softness, ethically sourced. So it is just, it's just so soft, and I just keep doing that. I think I did that all in the shop. I think from picking it up, having the moment of, oh, do I buy it, do I not, and then going downstairs. I think I just stood there just stroking it the whole time. And yeah, but you know, you're in a yarn shop, nobody's going to look at you funny if you do that, because chances are they're doing the same. So yes, I did end up buying more. But it's so pretty. And it's not even that it's pretty, it's that it's so soft. Like I said, I just really, really wish that I could kind of reach through the camera and show you how soft this is, because it is just nuts. But yeah, so I thought that would make a really nice treat for myself, especially given that this year I've really leaned into the colour work. I thought, maybe let's do some colour work cowls. There are some beautiful ones I've just been seeing on Instagram. Can't remember the name of the designer off the top of my head. So I'm not sure whether to use an existing design or whether to freestyle one myself. I could do either. We will see. But yes, I am intending to do a colour work cowl, and the plan will be to have it ready before Christmas, because that is when I may be in a Nordic country. So we will see. But I've got a lot of knitting and crochet to do before then. Thankfully, I've not done anything stupid like commit to making 6 scarves for Christmas like I did last year. In my defence, 4 of them were finished for Christmas, and one of them, the yarn hadn't arrived for Christmas, so that wasn't even my fault. But yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that again in a hurry. That was a marathon. That really was a marathon. I do have one last acquisition I'm going to show. I didn't get this on my trip, but I realised I hadn't shown it. So obviously I left my job, my teaching job, and one of my colleagues gave me a little ball of yarn. So this, you can see the colours coming through there. That is lovely. So this is a German yarn, because she's German, and it is Chapelle Sauerball Crazy. I've got no idea what that translates to, I'm going to be totally honest. And I was quite touched actually, because this colourway, I'm not going to try and pronounce the German, but she told me that it translates to Dragon's Eye. And because she knows I'm such a nerd and I love my Dungeons and Dragons and I love my kind of just fantasy everything, she said that kind of seemed really fitting for me, so that was really touching. So it appears to be a self-striping one. There is a little teeny kind of diagram on the back to show the colours and how they're gonna knit up. So in my head, that's a pair of socks. That's a really jazzy pair of socks. So it is 100 grams. Does it say how many meters? I'm trying to find the English. 420 meters for 100 grams. So fingering weight or thereabouts. It is 75% superwash. I'm assuming that's superwash. Oh yeah, 75% virgin wool and 25% nylon. So pretty good. It's a pretty good sock blend right there. So yeah, I think that's a rather jazzy pair of socks. So I forgot to mention this one last time, but I was quite touched at the thought that had gone into that as well. That was really nice of her, and it's a brand that I've not heard of again. So I always really like using brands that are a little bit new to me, broaden my horizons, broaden my experiences, and get to try some yarns that I might not otherwise have tried. So I was very happy with that. So yeah, Chapelle Sauerball Crazy, which was definitely a new one on me. So I'm just gonna turn this light on. There we go, because it is starting to get a little dark in here now, and I am planning on doing some knitting because I've got a story for you. I've got the tale of the Conclave. I'm just trying to keep hydrated because it is so warm in here, even with the window open. It is so warm in here. So I'm going to knit while I tell you this story, because why not? Let's get this sleeve part way done. If I can stop catching all of my yarns. So for anybody who wasn't aware of what I'm talking about with Conclave, I was asked to vend at a fantasy market event called the Conclave of Chaos. The idea being it was all kind of, you dress up and it's all themed stalls, all kind of like fantasy, like something out of Lord of the Rings. And it was the whole bank holiday weekend, the late August bank holiday weekend. It was up in Yorkshire, and I was asked to come and run a stall there. And, you know, I make patterns, and I've done the project bags, but apart from that, I don't really sell many physical items. So I said, you know, I'll come and I'll teach workshops, and they were really up for that idea, and, you know, all was good. The only kind of potential snag in the plan was that the Friday to start the bank holiday weekend, the Friday the 25th, was the day where I was due to get home from this big trip. So I knew it would be a little bit of a mad one. I was prepared that it would be quite a busy weekend, but I knew that before going in, and I planned for that. So on that Friday the 25th, I wake up in London, and we get the train back to the southwest. We pull onto my driveway. The taxi pulls up at about, I think it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The taxi pulls up, so I've already done like 3.5 hours of traveling. It is already an interesting day. Oh, hello. I had, in my incredible foresight, pre-packed the car. So the car was pre-packed and nearly entirely ready to go. I just had to kind of switch some stuff over from my holiday bag to the car, and then I'd be ready to go. So, you know, so far so good. And in half an hour, I was pulling back off the driveway. So at 1:30, I set off from Devon to go to Yorkshire. And I knew that it would be a long drive, but I thought, you know, it's fine, put some music on, you know, just crack on, and I'll be there like 8 o'clock. Yeah, it'll be all right. 8.5 hours later, I arrived in Yorkshire. The traffic had been horrific, but only up to Bristol. I don't know what it was. I don't know what had happened, but it took me 4 hours just to get past Bristol. And I remember my mum phoning me at 5 o'clock and saying, so where are you up to then? And I was like, I've just passed Bristol. And she went, ooh. Yeah. So it took 4 hours to get past Bristol. Once I'd gotten past Bristol, we saw some of the worst rain I'd ever driven in, twice as well. I don't know what was happening with the weather on that day, but we were on the motorway going at 30 miles an hour because the rain was so bad. We couldn't see the paint marking out the lanes. The only reason I knew that I was still in a lane was because of the cat's eyes on the road, because you could not see the paint. It was horrific weather. And I was like, please don't let it be raining this hard in Yorkshire, because I've got to pitch a tent. Because that was the one thing I didn't mention, is that it was a camping event in Yorkshire. So I was like, please don't let this weather be in Yorkshire, because I need to be pitching this tent in the dry. So at 10 o'clock, when I finally arrived in Yorkshire, obviously it's pitch black, it's dark, because it's 10 o'clock at night. And I arrive and I go to find the organiser, and I find them and I'm like, I'm finally here. Because I'd been like trying to ring them on the way to let them know that I was going to be ridiculously late. I did manage to get hold of them and just say, look, I'm going to be far later than I intended. So at 10 o'clock I got there, I kind of checked in, and they were like, yeah, just don't worry about your gazebo, don't worry about your stall, just pitch your tent, we'll sort the stall out tomorrow. I was like, yeah, that was the intention. The gazebo is tomorrow Nicola's problem. So I was like, yeah, I'll just go and find a bit of grass and put a tent on it. Which I was on my own, and it was pitch black. So I'm there trying to pitch a tent in complete darkness on my own. I did kind of wrangle a passerby just to hold some poles in place while I tried to get this tent up. Which, by the way, in the light of day the next day, this tent was up completely straight. I just feel like I deserve some credit for that. I did really well on this tent. Anyway, so I put the tent up and I was like, I'm just going to sleep and I will sort out the stall in the morning. So I got up slightly earlier than I was planning to on the Saturday, because I knew I needed to go and put a gazebo up. So had all my stuff in the car, and I drove over to the field where the market was planning on being held, and found myself a spot with my gazebo, and I was a bit gutted really, because obviously the fact that I had arrived so late and the fact that I was one of the last putting up the gazebo meant that I was right on the outskirts, which, you know, position wise it's not the best, but nothing I can do about it. It's just one of those things. Just, you know, crack on and make the best of it. So I started putting this gazebo up again on my own. So I wrangled one of the nearby stall holders and just asked for some help just with putting the initial gazebo up. Once it was up, I could, you know, attach the sides and set up the rest of my stall on my own. That was fine. But, you know, just the initial putting up, I just needed a little hand with. But I got the gazebo up, I got the stall running, and at midday, when the market officially opened, I had an up and running stall. And I was really quite a little bit impressed with myself, actually, because I didn't expect, with all the setbacks of the day before, I didn't expect to have my stall up and running in time for the market to start. I thought I was going to be, you know, kind of talking to customers and still just putting things in place. But no, I had it up and running, ready for the start of the market. And I was like, yeah, this is okay. We're making progress. So this is the Saturday, first day of the market. Oh, hello. And, you know, I've got people coming in, I'm doing some workshops, you know, teaching some crochet, selling some patterns, selling some project bags. So far, so good. So on the Saturday, it's going all right. And, you know, we closed Saturday out and, you know, it's been okay. I thought, you know, a lot of people will probably make a lot of their purchases on the Sunday, you know, last day. They'll take the chance to do it. So I was like, yeah, Sunday will be good. Saturday night was lovely as well. We had a campfire. We were singing around the campfire, like sea shanties and things. And that was really cute. So Sunday, get up on Sunday a little bit later because I think, well, I don't have to set up an entire stall, so I will let myself lie in a bit. Prepped my stall, and midday the market opens, so do the heavens. Like, this rain just pours, and my gazebo immediately starts leaking. Like, immediately, no hesitation, it just starts leaking. I'm like, great, this is a brand new gazebo and it's leaking instantly. So my stall is full of paper, it's full of fabric, you know, things that don't do well when they get wet. So I throw my raincoat over my stall, and I had a bin bag as well that I'd taken some of my project bags in. So my stall has a raincoat and a bin bag draped over it just to try and keep everything dry at any cost. But obviously nobody's there either because it's pouring it down. So even though the market's open, nobody's out. Nobody's looking in these stalls because it is chucking it down. And I started to get a little down, I'll admit. And you know, it's pouring, my gazebo's leaking straight through. I'd kind of had a lot of hope riding on the second day, and I start to get a little down, and I'm talking to the stall holders around me, and bless them, they were lovely, they were so nice, and they were kind of saying, you know, for your first market, this is amazing, you know, you did so well yesterday, everybody really enjoyed the workshops. They were saying that they couldn't believe it was my first market until I told them, because they were like, oh, you seemed like you've been doing this for years, which very sweet of them. But I think it was just the fact that if my gazebo hadn't been leaking, I'd have felt totally fine about it. But the fact that it was just pouring in, I think that was just tipping me over the edge. And I was just, feeling a little down. Had a very tiny cry, but they managed to buoy my spirits up, and bless them, they were lovely. And I was telling them all about the day before and how it had gone, and how, because I was on my own, I didn't get a chance to leave my stall all throughout the day. So I went 11 hours without peeing just because I didn't want to leave my stall. And they were like, no, don't do that again. They were like, just call one of us over, we'll keep an eye on your stall while you go and like go to the toilet or get a drink or something. They were like, don't do that. I was like, oh, sorry. So they were like, yeah, we'll cover your stall if you need to today. And I was very grateful, you know, thank you so much. And by about 1:45, the rain starts easing. So I'm like, right, okay, you know, let's go. I've had my cry. I felt sorry for myself, you know, let's get on it now. So as the rain's starting to ease, we get people coming round, and there is some squishy bits of the grass. You know, we are literally in a field. So we've got some quite large puddles around the front of our stalls, but it's not horrific. But yeah, people start coming round. I start selling. I start doing, you know, I do a workshop, and I think, yeah, okay, you know, we're back on track now. We're all right. And the rain kind of keeps coming on and off. It's, you know, it's not completely gone away. Every now and then we'll have a bit of a shower, but then it goes again, and we're all fine. And about 3:00, we get another one of these showers. It starts raining again. And at 3:30, the event organizer comes running round and says, we're shutting down because it's not really safe anymore. And we were quite surprised. We were like, oh, okay, right. So I immediately start panicking again, because that's half a day's trade gone. And I was like, oh no, like, you know, this is exactly what I was worried about this morning. I didn't think I'd make any sales, and I just immediately went back to my panic mode that I'd been in earlier. But again, these stall holders around me are absolute legends. They were like, no, this is good, this is your chance. I was like, what are you on about? Well, they said, well, everybody is kind of making for the hall because all the events are cancelled, there's nothing on. Take your stuff, go and run workshops in the barn. You know, everybody's sat in there, you can still run your workshops, you can still kind of make your money, like, you'll be fine. And I was like, oh my god, you're right, amazing, well, you know, genius idea. So I put my product, I stacked it all in the car. I thought, you know, I'm not packing the gazebo down and the table and everything. I was like, you know, that was always planned to do on the Monday when I packed my tent down. I was like, as long as I get my product out, I'll sort the rest out tomorrow. And it was properly raining again by this point, so everything got soaked on the way to the car, like properly drenched through. But I thought, you know, I'll be pulling it out in the hall anyway, and, you know, I'll do some workshops. And then I realised on my way to the hall why they'd called it off. Because in all this rain, the camping field had completely flooded. Like, there were tents like floating in this camping field. It was so bad. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, that explains it. Because at first I was like, you know, why are they saying it's not safe? It's just rain. Like, my gazebo's leaking, and even I'm like, it's just rain. And then, yeah, seeing this camping field, I was like, okay, yeah, that is fair. So I knew that I was up kind of the top end of this field. I thought I'm probably all right. So I went to the hall and I sat there, and I kind of waited a bit as well, because with everybody's tents being flooded, there was a higher priority, and that was, you know, rescuing the flooded tents and seeing if people could have a place to sleep for that night. So I thought, you know, I'll sit and wait until that madness subsides, and then for those people still looking for something to do, I will start offering workshops. So I sit in the hall, and I'm sat there about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, just kind of waiting, just chatting to some people that are there. And then one of the guy from the stall opposite mine comes into the hall. He sees me and he goes, you might want to go and check your gazebo. It's not doing well. And I was like, oh no. So I went back. I went to the field, to a mangled mess of a gazebo. Like, this thing had collapsed, and there wasn't a breath of wind either, because I remember thinking, gosh, we're really lucky that it hasn't been windy. So it wasn't wind, it was just the rain, and this whole gazebo was just mangled. And I'm stood there, I'm in the middle of this field in the pouring rain, just staring at the remains of my gazebo, and I just start crying again. I'm just like, this is my evening done now. I thought I could salvage this. I can't. You know, this is it now. It's my brand new gazebo, which is completely, there was no saving this gazebo. It wasn't just like bend a pole back into place, like the whole thing. There were just poles all bent out of shape. There was no saving it at all. So yeah, I just start crying. I am drenched through. My coat is doing nothing. All of my clothes are completely stuck to me. My boots are waterlogged. And I'm just stood in a puddle in a field crying. So the stall holder that was next to me was still there. She was packing her gazebo down, so she immediately came over to comfort me. There was another guy there as well. I'm not sure whether he worked for whether he was one of the organisers or whether he was just there. But he came over and they were both consoling me and hugging me, and they were like, what are you going to do? And I was just, I don't know what to do here. Like, my brain had just finished. They were like, it was like, no, we're done here. So I was like, I don't even know what to do. And thankfully they were like, right, okay, and they took charge, which I'm very grateful for, because I was in no position to be making any kind of decision. So they were like, right, first things first, what's left in that gazebo? So I was like, well, I've got my table, I've got my chairs, I had like a wooden kind of sign with my shop information on, and I was like, that I still have some bits in there. And they were like, right, let's get those out first of all. So we got out the rest of my furniture. I'm literally holding this thing up while this guy's in it so that it doesn't collapse on top of him. Like, it was really unstable. So we managed to get the rest of my stuff out, pop it in a wheelbarrow, and we are trudging across. It is like a trench at this point. Like, we are literally wading through the water. Honestly, wellies would have been a good choice to take if I'd known that it was going to be that. But no, we were ankle deep in the water by this point. And I get to the car, I put my very muddy stuff, absolutely soaked through, into the car, and then they're like, go back to the hall, sit yourself down, get a drink, calm yourself before you do anything else. And I'm like, well, I can't, because now I've got a gazebo to throw away. I was like, I'm gonna have to dismantle that to more than it is already, and find a bin to put it in. And bless, these two guys just looked at each other and they were like, we will do that for you. They were like, just leave your gazebo, we will put it in a skip for you. You just go back, start drying yourself off and get yourself a drink. And I just start crying again. I was like, oh my god, thank you so much. So I'm heading back to the hall, just kind of like sobbing quietly a little bit, because I thought I could salvage it, and then that kind of put paid to that dream. And I arrive back in the hall. One of the other vendors is in there, and obviously I've walked in with very clearly crying, and he's just like, oh no, what's happened? So I just launched into it. I was like, oh, my gazebo's all ruined, and I thought I could, and I was a mess at this point, like complete mess. And bless him, he stands up and he's like, hot chocolate. I'm going to go and get you a hot chocolate. So he went and got me a hot chocolate. Someone else got me tissues. I'm explaining to the event organizer why I will probably not be running the workshops anymore. But honestly, I don't think that was a surprise anyway, because they were in crisis mode by that point. They were finding, like I said, blankets and places for people to sleep that night, because the camping field was just so sodden. So this guy went and got me a hot chocolate. Everybody else is consoling me. And when he comes back, he says, have you checked on your tent? And I said, no, I haven't, because I just need to believe that my tent is okay. Because I was like, if I walk over there and my tent is flooded as well, I'm gonna lose it. I was like, I am at breaking point. I can't take finding a waterlogged tent as well. Like, no, that will be more than I can handle. And they were like, okay, that's fair enough. But obviously, the longer I sit and don't look at it, the riskier the riskier it is, because there's more chance it's going to be waterlogged. So I sit there and I kind of calm down a little bit. I drink my hot chocolate, and I was just kind of saying at this point, I just want to go home. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, everything that could have gone wrong has, and I just want to go home. Like, I thought, well, I just want to go to my tent, whatever condition it's in, put it in the car and go home. And it was about 5:30 by this point as well, and I was like, I don't even care that I would probably be driving through the night. I just want to go home. And the stall owner that went and got me a hot chocolate was like, right, well, we're packing up now and going home. They said, but we're not driving that far. They said, we don't live far away. They said, but we are going to the camping field right now to pack our stuff up. If you tell us, what your tent looks like and where it is, would you like us to check on it for you? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, you know what, I'm gonna need to face it sooner or later. Yeah, can you let me know what condition it's in? So I sent them a picture of the tent and sent them off, and about 15 minutes later I got a phone call and they were like, yeah, your tent is bone dry, like there is not a drop inside this tent. And I was like, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that. I started crying again, but like out of relief at that point. I was like, I really needed you to tell me that. So at least I had that was like the one thing I could cling to, is my tent was okay. So I was like, right, okay, well, at least all of my stuff is dry, because I had like my iPad in there as well. So I was like, oh my god, please don't let the whole thing be flooded, because there were tents like floating away. Like, it was really, really bad. But because I'd arrived late, I ended up at the top of the field, so that kind of saved me a little bit. But even so, even knowing that my tent was dry, I was like, I'm not staying here tonight, because the mood that I'm in, the state that I'm in, I can't stay here. And plus, I couldn't risk the idea of it raining again through the night and then waking up to find it flooded. I was like, if it's not flooded now, I'm going to leave it not flooded, and I'm going to go home with it not flooded. And I was just ready to go home. I was like, I just don't want to be here anymore. I just want to go to my own bed. I want to have a shower, and I want it to be clean and warm and dry. And yeah. And I was just in no mood. And one of the people that I was sat there chatting to was like, I really don't like the idea of you driving back to Plymouth on your own. Like I said, it's about 5:30 by this point. It took me 8.5 hours to get there on the Friday. And she was like, I do not like the idea of you driving home on your own in the upset kind of emotional state that you're in, potentially through the night. And she was like, I know this is going to sound like really weird, but please come and stay at mine instead. And I just burst into tears again, and I'm like, are you sure? Because I've known her like 2 hours at this point, like, and she was like, I really just don't, I can't let you walk out of here and get in the car knowing that you're going to be driving all that way in this condition. So please, like, I'll make you some food when we get there, we'll get you dry, we'll get you like an actual bed to sleep in, just please. Yeah, I would just much rather you did this. So I was like, okay. And I was like, I was shocked at myself, because I was like, this is like a stranger. And I was just like, yeah, I can't stay in this field tonight. Let me just count my rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So I phoned Sam, and I was like, I explained the whole thing, obviously in between like crying. Like, it was quite obvious that the day hadn't gone to plan. So I phoned him. I was like, yeah, I'm just staying at this girl's tonight. And he was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I know, but she seems really lovely. She's kind of offering me a warm bed, a dry bed, and I can't stay here. So we went back into the field. This girl was like, I'll come and help you pack your tent up. So we went into my dry tent. Honestly, that tent is going to get the best review Go Outdoors has ever seen. And there were 2 people in the field that were just packing down tent after tent after tent. Like, that was all they were there doing. They were just going from one tent to another and helping the owner pack it down. And honestly, like absolute saints. They were just like, right, okay, this one now, and they would just fold it up, put it in a bag, and be like, right, put it in your car. So that I started taking all my stuff out of my tent. I went on a trip to the car. By the time I got back, they're rolling it into the bag. Like, that's this whole thing. They were like machines. They were amazing. So we got the tent into the car. I put on a drier pair of shoes. They weren't dry by any means, but they were drier. And I drive to this girl's house, where honestly, this girl, like, one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. She insisted on me sleeping in her own bed. She was like, I will sleep like in the living room, and I was trying desperately to be like, no, please, like, you sleep in, I'll have the living room, like, don't give me your actual bed. And she wouldn't have it, and we got there and she made me pasta and hot chocolate, and I was like, you can't be this nice to me, because I'm gonna cry again. Like, I can't take this. She, honestly, like, absolute angel of a human being. And then by 8 o'clock, 8:30 on the Monday morning, I was back on the road. Yeah, I'm very glad that I didn't have to pack a tent down, because it meant that I could get off earlier in the morning. So I got home at about 3 o'clock on the Monday afternoon. Yeah, after spending the night at this complete stranger's house, in the middle of Yorkshire. Would not recommend it as a safe thing to do. Like, I'm very aware that it was a questionable decision, but honestly, that this, genuinely, she is possibly one of the kindest, most generous people I've ever met in my entire life. I cannot believe how nice, well, everybody there was, to be honest. Everybody that was at the conclave was so kind. Everybody that was kind of cheering me up, that was, you know, they offered to put my gazebo in the bin, they packed my tent up, they were getting me hot chocolates and tissues, and like, I could not believe the kindness that came out of the people at that event. I was blown away, like completely astounded. And like, I'm able to look back at it now and kind of laugh a little bit, because we're over a week ago now. It's not put me off doing markets as a whole. Like, maybe I'll leave it a little bit. I think maybe my next one's going to be an indoor market, maybe like a day market. But yeah, it's not put me off overall. I just think, you know, it was a really unlucky one to have as your first one. And to be fair, all the other people that were there were like, I can't believe this is the first one you've had. Like, this is the first experience you've had with it. Yeah, and it was just a perfect storm of like one thing after another. And yeah, I went from an 8.5 hour car drive to a gazebo in the skip, every piece of clothing I own utterly drenched, and staying the night at this random person's house. Although we did have a little bit of a laugh when we got back, because obviously, you know, it's risky for her too. She barely knows me. She doesn't know who she's invited back to her house. And she was like, you're gonna laugh at me. I was like, why? Go on. She said, the reason, like, the point at which I knew that you might be, you know, okay to invite back. She said, you said you were a teacher, so I knew that meant you must be DBS checked. And I did. I just started laughing, and I was like, I mean, you're not wrong. She was like, so I knew you probably weren't a psychopath. So we did have a little bit of a laugh about that. But honestly, like, this whole weekend, it taught me a lot about which pieces of equipment I have that are amazing and which ones weren't. I forget the name of the gazebo, but let me tell you, I am going to be on the Range's website leaving them a very honest review about this gazebo. It did say on the product description, it was like, it wasn't Larry. It said on the product description, can withstand mild weather. I think by mild weather they mean sun. It can withstand sun and nothing else, because like I said, the second it started raining, this thing was like, oh no, okay, and just immediately started leaking. So I think anything worse than sun, and no chance. But honestly, my tent, amazing. Like, I think, like I said, the Go Outdoors is going to get the best review they've ever seen. My sleeping bag, amazing, because actually, you know, for all it was August, the nights got like colder than I was expecting. The second night we were down to 9 degrees, which, you know, isn't like, it's not like freezing, but I was, you know, I had my sleeping bag and all I had on while I was asleep was a t-shirt and shorts. And I woke up like once when I went from curled up to like lay flat out, and the bottom of my sleeping bag was a bit colder than the top. So my feet were a little cold, but like it was a very brief like, oh, okay, and then just went back to sleep. So my sleeping bag was amazing. The tent is, which tent was it? Eurohike Cairns 3, the Eurohike Cairns 3 DLX from Go Outdoors. Amazing. Like that thing was amazing. The sleeping bag, it is a Berghaus Transition 200, I believe. Yeah, amazing sleeping bag. I couldn't believe it because normally when I'm asleep, that's when I really feel the cold. I have had nights camping where I have had on 7 layers of clothes and still not slept because I've been so cold, and that was in like summer. So finding out that it had gone down to 9 degrees and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt and I barely felt it, I was quite impressed. So yeah, the sleeping bag, amazing. Also, the shawl and gauntlets that I took, that I showed on an episode previously, those kind of knit gauntlet hand warmer style things, as well as Claire's shawl, they were so warm. The first night, like I said, we were out by the campfire and I wasn't sat close enough to the campfire to be feeling the campfire, but it was 11 degrees. I was in a skirt, my white shirt, and like the corset style thing I'd made, and then I just had the shawl and the gauntlets on over the top, and that was all I put on for the evening, just the shawl and the gauntlets. And I was totally fine. Like, I wasn't sat there shivering with the cold. Like, they were fine. So they were made using West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat Chunky Roving. And yeah, that yarn, so warm. Because I could tell that it was cold, but I had the shawl and I had the hand warmers on, and I was like, these are really taking that, like, no problem at all. So I was lovely and warm. So that yarn, highly recommend, highly recommend, because it is warm. And I knew it would be, because I'd actually said when I showed them on the podcast, I actually said that when I went out to take that picture of the shawl in the forest, I had it on and I was like, whoa, this is really warm. And it was a case of just get the picture and take the shawl off, because I could feel it. It was really hot. And yeah, wearing it at like 11 o'clock at night when it's 11 degrees up in Yorkshire, I was like, yeah, this is doing it. This yarn is good. So yeah, that yarn, top tier, 100% would recommend, especially if you're looking for something warm. And yeah, my tent and my sleeping bag, amazing, top quality, 5-star. Gazebo, not so much. So yeah, that is the tale of the Conclave. I did say it was a story. I said it was a story. So that was my first ever market experience. And like I said, it's not put me off forever. Just maybe I'll just give it a little bit before I try another one, and it'll be an indoor one, I think. But yeah, I think honestly could not believe how kind and Jenna published this tale. Like I said, it was a story. Like, it just went from one thing to another and ended with me in some random person's house. But yeah, the one thing that really sticks out is the unbelievable kindness and generosity that everybody at the Conclave of Chaos showed. I was astounded. I could not believe how willing to help, how willing to comfort. And yeah, I mean, I was a stranger to every single one of them. I didn't know a single person there, and that didn't matter. They just saw somebody who needed some help, and I wasn't even the most in need there as well. There were people whose tents genuinely completely flooded. So actually I felt kind of bad getting so upset because I still had a tent, but I was just at the point where kind of enough had gone wrong that my capacity for going wrong was at zero. And yeah, it didn't matter that they didn't know me, it didn't matter that there were other people there that were in similar situations. They just saw somebody that needed some comfort, some help, some guidance, and they just did it. And I tried to remember as many names as I could, and I sent like a big massive long message in the Discord the second I got home, and I was like naming as many people. I was like, thank you to this person, this person, this person, this person. And yeah, just the kindness was unbelievable, and it's renewed my faith a little bit in humanity. Yeah, it just really shows that there is some good in this world. And I'm going to let the Lord of the Rings fans finish that quote off because I am going to end the podcast there. If you've been with me this whole time, like, fair play, thank you very, very much. I hope you enjoyed my tale. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. I will be on Twitch on Saturday, possibly finishing off the rest of Portal 2. We will see, hopefully. But yeah, have a lovely evening, and I will see you next time. Bye.